Hey there, friends. Welcome to another episode. Welcome back to Weird Facts, where we dig into the bizarre, the morbid, and the straight-up mind-blowing real stories that make you wonder what the hell is really going on behind the curtain. Today's story is one that'll have you checking your locks twice and questioning every official report you've ever read. We're talking about the mysterious death of the man who knew too much about Area 51. Imagine this. It's January 17, 1996, a quiet apartment in Wilsonville, Oregon. Philip Schneider, a former government geologist and explosives expert with top-secret clearance, is found dead on his bathroom floor. The official ruling? Suicide. But here's where it gets way darker. His ex-wife walks in days later, sees bruises all over his body, a rubber catheter tube wrapped 3 times around his neck, and no suicide note. Philip had advanced cancer, sure, but he was also packing to move and had just finished a lecture tour blowing the lid off the government's deepest secrets. Friends said he couldn't even tie his own shoes some days because of his health. So how does a guy like that strangle himself with medical tubing? You're not going to believe what happened next. But every detail comes straight from his own words, his lectures, and the suspicious aftermath that still has people talking. To understand why Philip Schneider's death still feels like one of the creepiest cover-ups out there, we gotta rewind to who this guy actually was. Born in 1947, Philip came from serious military stock. His father, Oscar Schneider, was supposedly a Navy captain tied to some of the wildest black projects of the Cold War, including rumors around the Philadelphia experiment. Philip himself was no conspiracy nut living in his mom's basement. He was a respected geological engineer and structural specialist who worked for the U.S. government on highly classified underground construction projects. High-level security clearance, explosives expert, the kind of guy who knew how to keep his mouth shut, until he didn't. Now fast forward to 1979. Deep beneath the desert of New Mexico, at a place the government still won't fully admit exists, Philip says he was part of a team building what's known as Dulce Base. Think massive underground city, levels going down miles, connected through a network of tunnels that conspiracy researchers have long linked straight to the black projects at Area 51 in Nevada. They're drilling, blasting, installing massive ventilation systems when something goes horribly wrong. Philip described it in chilling detail during his public lectures in the mid-90s. He said they broke into a huge natural cavern and suddenly found themselves face-to-face with beings that were not human. 7-foot-tall gray aliens, gray skin, huge black eyes, the works. What happened next sounds like a scene from a horror movie, except Philip lived to tell it for a while. Gunfire erupted. He claimed he killed 2 of the creatures himself with his sidearm, before one of them hit him with some kind of energy weapon that burned a line straight across his chest and took off several of his fingers. In total, he said over 60 military personnel and scientists died in that underground firefight. Philip himself was badly wounded, lost fingers on one hand, suffered internal injuries that would plague him for the rest of his life. He even showed photos of his mangled hand and chest scars during lectures. But here's the part that always gave me chills. He said the government knew these beings were down there. That this wasn't the first encounter, that there were treaties, black budget deals, and technology exchanges happening right under our feet. After that 1979 incident, Philip's life changed forever. He started suffering from multiple health problems, radiation poisoning, cancer. He claimed there were multiple attempts on his life, cars trying to run him off the road, poisoning. Yet by 1995, he decided enough was enough. He started giving public lectures across the country. Standing on stage, missing fingers visible, voice steady, he laid it all out. 129 deep underground military bases across the United States, some going 2 miles deep. Massive budgets hidden from Congress, alien technology being reverse engineered. And yes, direct ties to the ultra-secret testing at Area 51, where he implied the real exotic stuff was being studied and flown. He talked about how these bases were connected by high-speed maglev trains. How different levels housed everything from human workers to actual extraterrestrial beings. He even warned that the public had no idea how deep the rabbit hole really went. People who saw him speak described him as calm, technical, not some wild-eyed fanatic. He wasn't ranting about little green men. He was giving specifics, dates, engineering details that only someone who had actually been there could know. And he paid the price for it. Friends said he was terrified, but felt it was his duty to get the truth out before it was too late. Then comes that cold January day in 1996. Philip doesn't show up for appointments. His ex-wife Cynthia finally goes to check on him. She finds him dead. The scene is messy, bruises on his body that didn't look self-inflicted. The catheter tube wrapped tight around his neck in a way that seemed physically difficult for a man in his condition. No note. The police investigation? Sloppy at best. They didn't even call the coroner right away. The body was released quickly. Cynthia fought for years to get answers, releasing autopsy photos and documents that only raised more questions. She and others in the UFO research community were convinced Philip Schneider was murdered because he knew too much and was talking about it. And here's where it gets absolutely insane. Just weeks before his death, Philip had been preparing for even bigger speaking engagements. He was naming names, showing more evidence, connecting dots between Dulce, Area 51, and other black sites. Dark humor aside, when a guy with that kind of insider knowledge starts spilling classified beans on stage, the powers that be don't exactly send a thank you card. They send a message. Whether it was suicide driven by pain or something far more sinister, the timing couldn't be more suspicious. This was a man who had literally fought for his life underground and then fought to tell the world what he saw. Even today, almost 30 years later, the story still blows my mind. We've got congressional hearings on UAPs, whistleblowers coming forward about non-human craft, and yet Philip Schneider's tale from the 90s feels eerily ahead of its time. Was he telling the truth about what's really happening beneath Area 51 and its sister bases? Or was it the ramblings of a sick man with a wild imagination? The government has never officially commented on Dulce Base or his claims, which, let's be honest, is kind of the point. They don't deny or confirm, they just let the mystery fester. This one hits different because it's not some blurry photo or grainy video. It's a real guy with a real career who stepped forward and then stepped out under very questionable circumstances. Makes you wonder what else is buried down there, literally and figuratively. What secrets are still being kept at Area 51 right now? And who else might know too much? If this story gave you chills, drop your theories in the comments. Do you think Philip was silenced, or was it just a tragic end for a man who carried too many burdens? Hit that like button if you want more deep dives into government mysteries, subscribe so you never miss an upload, and turn on notifications. We've got plenty more where this came from. Thanks for hanging out with me on Weird Facts. Stay curious, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.